They superglued his hair. Now the quiet kid shows them why that was their biggest mistake. Marcus Donovan had just started his freshman year at Westlake High when the world crashed down around him. At 15, his slender build and quiet demeanor made him an easy target. Being the new kid in a small town where most students had known each other since kindergarten only made things worse. What no one at Westlake knew was that Marcus had spent 6 years training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai. His father had enrolled him in martial arts when he was 9, recognizing his son's small stature might cause problems. Marcus had earned his blue belt in BJJ by 13 and won several junior championships back in their old town. But that was a different life. Fighting is for the ring, not for showing off, his father always said. True strength isn't about proving yourself to others. It's about knowing what you're capable of and using it only when necessary. So Marcus kept his training to himself. At Westlake, he was just the new kid, invisible on good days, a target on bad ones. The worst days involved Tyler Reeves and his shadows, Derek Wyatt and Caleb Fisher. Tyler was a junior, the star running back with a confident swagger that parted crowds in the hallway. Derek was almost as big with a permanent scowl. Caleb was leaner but taller, with a mean laugh that echoed whenever someone became their joke. That someone was often Marcus. It started small, a shoulder check that sent his books flying, snickering when he spoke up in class, comments about his size, "Hey shrimp, need a booster seat?" or "Speak up, we can't hear you down there." Marcus did what his parents advised. Keep your head down, don't engage, it'll blow over. He stuck to the shadows, ate lunch in the library when possible, and mapped routes between classes to avoid them. But Westlake wasn't that big, and there was only so much avoiding he could do. 3 weeks into the school year, he was eating a sandwich when a shadow fell across his tray. "That's our table, new kid." Marcus looked up to find Tyler looming over him, flanked by Derek and Caleb. "I didn't know," Marcus said quietly, gathering his things. "I'll move." "He speaks," Tyler announced loudly. "And here I thought maybe you were deaf and dumb." Laughter rippled through nearby tables. Most looked away quickly, unwilling to get involved. "Just dumb," Derek added, reaching to flick Marcus's glasses. Marcus caught his wrist before the finger connected, a reflex from years of training, but immediately released it, mentally kicking himself. "Don't engage," but it was too late. Tyler's eyes narrowed slightly. "Got some reflexes there, huh? Think you're tough?" "No," Marcus said, standing with his tray. "I'm just trying to eat lunch." As he turned to leave, Caleb's foot shot out, catching his ankle. Marcus stumbled but kept his balance, another instinct from training, but his tray clattered to the floor, splattering his lunch across the linoleum. The cafeteria erupted in laughter. "Oops," Caleb grinned. "Looks like someone's a little clumsy." A lunch aide looked over disinterestedly but made no move to intervene. Marcus knelt and began picking up the scattered food, his face burning. His fingers trembled slightly, not from fear, from the effort of restraint. In his mind, he could see exactly how to sweep Caleb's legs from under him, how to use Tyler's momentum against him. Not here. Not for this. It's not worth it. When he stood, Tyler watched him with a smirk that suggested this was just the beginning. "See you around, new kid," he said, claiming the vacated table. Over the following weeks, the encounters escalated. His locker was jammed with wet paper towels. Someone started calling him Mouse for how quietly he spoke, and the nickname spread. In gym, he was always picked last, with audible groans from whichever team got him. Marcus absorbed it all silently. At night, he channeled his frustration into training at the local MMA gym. His coach, Ray, noticed the change. "You're hitting that bag like it owes you money, kid," Ray observed one evening. "Something going on?" "Just school stuff," Marcus said between breaths. "Bullies?" Marcus shrugged, neither confirming nor denying. "You know you could handle yourself if needed," Ray said. "It wasn't a question. My dad says fighting at school would just make things worse." Ray nodded slowly. "Your dad's a smart man. Fighting should always be the last resort. But knowing you can stand up for yourself if that last resort comes, that counts for something too." Those words echoed in Marcus's mind the next day. For just a moment, he allowed himself to imagine standing up to Tyler. The fantasy was satisfying, but fleeting. The reality would mean suspension at minimum. His parents had enough stress with the new move without adding discipline issues. So he continued to endure, hoping Tyler and his crew would get bored and move on. That hope died on a rainy Tuesday. In October, Marcus was at his locker between classes when he felt someone approaching from behind. He tensed, preparing for the now familiar shoulder check. Instead, there was a cold, wet sensation on the back of his head, followed immediately by an intense burning that spread across his scalp. His first thought was water, a cruel prank but harmless, but the burning intensified, and something thick began dripping down his neck. The chemical smell hit him a second later. Superglue, industrial strength, from the workshop classrooms. He reached up instinctively, his fingers meeting a sticky, rapidly hardening mass where his hair should be. The burning continued, searing into his skin. Behind him, Tyler's voice. "Looks like Mouse got himself in a sticky situation." Laughter erupted as students realized what was happening. Marcus turned to see Tyler holding an empty bottle of adhesive, Derek and Caleb beside him, phones out, recording his reaction. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. The burning intensified, but it was nothing compared to the rage building inside. Him. 6 years of discipline warred against the primal instinct to strike back. What is going on here? The assistant principal, Mrs. Novak, pushed through the gathering crowd. "He put superglue in my hair," Marcus said, his voice steadier than expected. "It was just a joke," Tyler said, quickly pocketing the empty bottle. "No big deal. Mr. Reeves, my office, now." Mrs. Novak turned to Marcus. "You need to get to the nurse immediately." As Marcus was led away, he heard Caleb's voice. "Worth it for the video, man. This is going viral." The next hours passed in a blur. The school nurse called his parents. His mother arrived in tears, taking him straight to urgent care. The doctor confirmed first-degree chemical burns across parts of his scalp. There was no saving his hair. It had to be cut away along with the hardened adhesive, leaving patches of raw red skin exposed. "We're pressing charges," his father said that evening. "Assault with a caustic substance. That's what the doctor called it. This goes beyond bullying. The school already suspended him," Marcus's mother said. 3 days in school suspension. 3 days for chemical assault? If Marcus had done that to someone, they'd have called the police. Marcus sat silently on the couch, running his hand over his newly shorn head. The patches where the glue had burned stung under the antibiotic ointment. He didn't care about the hair, it would grow back. What dug at him was the humiliation. Knowing a video of one of the worst moments of his life was probably already circulating. "I'm not going back," he said quietly, interrupting his parents' discussion. "Not until something actually changes," he continued. 3-day suspension means he'll be back next week, and everyone will have seen that video. His parents exchanged glances. "We'll talk to the principal again," his mother said. "Push for more serious consequences." But Marcus knew how it would go. Tyler was the school's star athlete, from a family that donated generously to the athletics program. There would be talks about learning experiences, and ultimately, nothing would really change. That night, unable to find a comfortable position, that didn't put pressure on his injured scalp. Marcus made a decision. His father was right. Fighting should be a last resort. He was pretty sure he'd reached that point. The next week crawled by. Marcus stayed home, completing assignments sent by sympathetic teachers. His parents fought with the school administration, who maintained that the 3-day suspension was appropriate to the situation. Meanwhile, Marcus's mother started a social media campaign. Justice for Marcus spread quickly through local parent groups. A local news station picked up the story, interviewing his parents about the school's response to what the reporter termed a vicious chemical attack. The story gained traction. A local salon offered Marcus a free styling to even out what remained of his hair. Support messages poured in, but still the school wouldn't budge on Tyler's punishment, and the video continued to circulate. Some students even sent Marcus mocking messages, calling him a crybaby for making such a big deal about a little prank. When Monday came around again, his parents were reluctant to send him back, but Marcus insisted. "I need to do this," he told them over breakfast. "I can't hide forever." His father studied him across the table. "You remember what we've always said about fighting?" "I know, Dad. Last resort. And you know that if it comes to that, if you truly have no other choice, your mother and I will stand by you. But be sure, Marcus, be absolutely sure it's necessary." Marcus nodded solemnly. "I understand." Walking into Westlake that morning felt like entering an arena. Conversations stopped as he passed. Eyes followed him, some curious, some pitying, some gleeful at witnessing the return of their victim. His hair was cut short now, styled to hide the worst of the burned areas. He ditched his glasses for contacts. He walked differently too, no longer trying to disappear. 6 years of martial arts training had taught him how to carry himself with confidence, a skill he'd been suppressing in his attempt to avoid attention. In third period English, he sat in his usual seat. When Tyler and Caleb walked in, there was a moment of heavy silence as the class waited to see what would happen. Tyler recovered first, nudging Caleb and making an exaggerated show of sniffing the air. Do you smell something burning? A few nervous laughs rippled through the classroom. Marcus didn't react. The teacher entered, calling the class to order, and the moment passed. The rest of the day unfolded in a series of small provocations. "Ommo," whispered Mouse here, an imitation of someone frantically patting at their burning head there. Marcus absorbed it all, neither retreating nor engaging. He was biding his time, waiting to see if things would settle on their own. By Thursday, it was clear nothing had changed. If anything, Tyler and his crew had been emboldened by their lack of consequences. The YouTube video of the SUPERGLUE incident had racked up thousands of views, and they were enjoying their local fame. The breaking point came during lunch on Friday. Marcus had taken to eating in an empty classroom with permission from his biology teacher, Mr. Abernathy. But Mr. Abernathy was out sick that day, and the classroom was locked. With no other options, Marcus made his way to the cafeteria, keeping his head high. He chose a table in the corner and sat with his back to the wall, a tactical choice that would have made Ray proud. He was halfway through his lunch when they surrounded him, not just Tyler, Derek, and Caleb, but half the football team. 8 boys in varsity jackets forming a semicircle around his isolated table. "Well, look who decided to come out of hiding," Tyler said loudly. "I'm surprised you showed your face here again, Mouse." Marcus put down his sandwich and looked directly at Tyler for the first time since the incident. "I'm not hiding anymore." Something in his tone made Tyler blink, but he recovered quickly. "Big talk from someone who ran to mommy and the news over a little joke." "Chemical burns aren't a joke," Marcus said evenly. "But I'm not here to fight with you, Tyler. I just want to eat my lunch." "Fight?" Tyler laughed. "As if you could. Look at him, guys. He thinks he could take me." The other boys laughed on cue, though Marcus noticed uncertainty in Derek's eyes. Maybe he remembered how quickly Marcus had caught his wrist that day, weeks ago. "I don't want to fight," Marcus repeated, "but I'm not going to be your target anymore." "Either. Hear that?" Tyler looked around at his audience, which now included most of the cafeteria. "Mouse thinks he gets to decide when the game is over." He reached for Marcus's milk carton, clearly intending to spill it. Without thinking, Marcus moved it out of reach, too quickly, with too much precision. Again, that moment of surprise in Tyler's eyes. "You know what I think?" Tyler's voice hardened. "I think you need a reminder of your place." He nodded to Derek, who produced a small tube from his pocket. More superglue. Marcus's stomach clenched. "No audience this time, Mouse," Tyler said, his voice dropping lower. "Just us after school behind the gym, unless you're too scared to show up without a camera crew and your mommy to protect you." It was a trap, and Marcus knew it. But sitting there, surrounded by Tyler's crew, with that tube of superglue being casually waved in his face, something snapped into place in Marcus's mind. This was the moment his father had spoken about. "The last resort. 3 o'clock, he said, his voice perfectly calm. "Just you and me, Tyler. No friends, no weapons, no superglue. A fair fight." Tyler's eyebrows shot up in surprise, then lowered in amusement. "You're seriously challenging me to a fight?" "You?" "Yes." The simple confidence in that one word caused a ripple of murmurs through the watching students. Tyler studied him for a long moment, then broke into a predatory grin. "Your funeral, Mouse. 3 o'clock. Don't be late." He turned to the gathered students. "Spread the word. Mouse wants to play with the big cats." Word spread through Westlake like wildfire. By last period, even the teachers seemed aware that something was brewing, though no one quite believed quiet Marcus Donovan had actually challenged Tyler Reeves to a fight. At 2:55, Marcus walked calmly to his locker, stowed his books, and made his way outside. A stream of students was already heading toward the back of the gym, an isolated area partially hidden from the main building by the equipment shed, and what an audience had gathered. It seemed like half the school was there, arranged in a loose circle. Phones were out, ready to capture whatever happened next. In the center stood Tyler, flanked as always by Derek and Caleb. He'd removed his varsity jacket, rolling his shoulders. As he waited, the crowd parted as Marcus approached. He heard the whispers, the disbelief that he'd actually shown up, the speculation about how quickly Tyler would destroy him. "Didn't think you'd have the guts to show," Tyler called as Marcus stepped into the circle. "Last chance to back out, Mouse." Marcus set his backpack down and removed his hoodie, revealing a plain t-shirt underneath. "No friends," he reminded. "Tyler, just you and me." With a cocky grin, Tyler waved Derek and Caleb back. "Won't need help with this one," he said, cracking his knuckles. "This'll be quick." Marcus stood relaxed, hands at his sides, weight balanced evenly on both feet, a neutral stance that gave away nothing of his training. He watched Tyler begin to circle him, playing to the crowd. "Let's see what you've got, Mouse," Tyler taunted, feinting a quick step forward. Marcus didn't flinch. Confused by the lack of fear, Tyler moved in for real this time, throwing a wild haymaker aimed at Marcus's head. It was a sloppy punch telegraphed a mile away. Marcus simply wasn't there when it arrived. Stepping slightly to the side, Tyler stumbled slightly, off balance from his missed swing. The crowd murmured in surprise. "Stand still and fight, you little—" He charged again, throwing a combination of punches that might have intimidated someone without training. Marcus slipped and blocked each one, his movements economical and precise. He made no attempt to counter, simply defending flawlessly. This wasn't a street brawl for him, it was exactly like sparring in the gym, reading an opponent's patterns and energy. After 30 seconds of this, Tyler was breathing hard, frustration evident on his face. "Stop dancing and fight back," he shouted, launching another wild rush. This time Marcus countered, not with a punch, but with a simple sweep that caught Tyler's forward leg and sent him sprawling face first onto the ground. The crowd gasped, then erupted in a mixture of shock and laughter. Tyler scrambled to his feet, his face red with rage and humiliation. "Lucky move," he snarled, brushing dirt from his clothes. "That wasn't luck," Marcus said calmly, "and we can stop this now if you want. Just leave me alone from now on." The offer only enraged Tyler further. With a roar, he charged again, swinging wildly. Marcus sidestepped, caught one of the flailing arms, and used Tyler's own momentum to flip him over his hip. The larger boy crashed to the ground again, harder this time, the air audibly rushing from his lungs. "What are you waiting for?" Tyler yelled at Derek and Caleb as he struggled to his feet. "Get him!" And just like that, the rules changed. Derek and Caleb rushed forward, turning the one-on-one challenge into a 3-on-1 attack. But even this didn't panic Marcus. Multiple attackers were part of his advanced training. As Caleb reached him first, Marcus executed a perfect double leg takedown, driving him to the ground before quickly rolling away to avoid being caught by the others. Derek swung a wild kick that Marcus caught, using it to topple the bigger boy off balance. Tyler had regained his feet and was circling again, looking for an opening. Marcus kept moving, maintaining awareness of all three, never allowing himself to be trapped between them. "He's some kind of ninja or something," someone said loudly from the crowd. The comment seemed to push Tyler over the edge. With a bellow of rage, he rushed Marcus again, this time managing to clinch with him, trying to use his superior weight to force Marcus down. It was exactly the wrong move against a BJJ practitioner. Within seconds, Marcus had reversed the position, taking Tyler's back and applying a rear naked choke, not fully locked in, just enough pressure to make it clear what he could do if he wanted to. "Yield," he said quietly into Tyler's ear. "It's over." Tyler thrashed for a moment, then went still. As he realized the position he was in, Marcus could feel the exact moment the fight went out of him. The subtle relaxation of muscles, the shift from resistance to resignation. He released the hold and stepped back, giving Tyler space to get up. The football player rose slowly, his face a mask of disbelief and humiliation. "Who the hell are you?" Tyler asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm the kid you've been bullying for 2 months, Marcus replied evenly. "The kid you put in the hospital with chemical burns. The kid who asked you, multiple times, to just leave him alone." The circle of students had gone completely silent, many lowering their phones as the enormity of what they'd just witnessed sank in. Near the back, Marcus noticed a couple of teachers who had finally arrived, but they made no move to intervene, perhaps sensing that whatever was happening had already reached its conclusion. Tyler looked around at the sea of faces, at the phones, that had captured every moment of his defeat, and something in him seemed to crumble. Without another word, he turned and pushed his way through the crowd, leaving behind his varsity jacket and what remained of his reputation. Derek and Caleb exchanged uncertain glances, then followed him, shoulders hunched. The spell broke, and the crowd began to disperse, buzzing with what they'd just witnessed. Within minutes, only a handful of students remained, staring at Marcus with new eyes. One of them stepped forward, a girl Marcus recognized from his English class, but had never spoken to. "That was—" She seemed at a loss for words. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" "I've been training since I was 9, Marcus said simply, picking up his hoodie and backpack. "It's never been about fighting, though. It's about discipline and self-defense." "Why didn't you do that when they first started messing with you?" Marcus considered the question. "Because it should always be the last resort, not the first. I tried everything else first." The following Monday, Westlake High felt like a different school. Students who had never spoken to Marcus before greeted him in the hallways. Teachers watched him with a mixture of concern and newfound respect. And Tyler Reeves, he was conspicuously absent, as were Derek and Caleb. Marcus heard that Tyler's parents had transferred him to a private school in the next county after the videos of both incidents had gone viral. The SUPERGLUE video, which had initially been shared as a joke at Marcus's expense, now served as evidence in the formal complaint his parents had filed against both Tyler and the school. As for the fight video, it had transformed Marcus overnight, from mouse to something of a reluctant folk hero among Westlake students. Later that day, the principal called Marcus into his office. Marcus had been expecting this. Fighting on school property, regardless of the circumstances, carried consequences. He was prepared for suspension, possibly even expulsion. Instead, he found his parents already seated in the office, along with the superintendent of schools and the school district's lawyer. Rather than disciplinary action for the fight, the school officials wanted to talk about moving forward constructively. The viral videos had created a public relations crisis for the district, with parents and community members demanding to know why the SUPERGLUE incident hadn't been handled more seriously in the first place. We recognized that there were shortcomings in how the situation with Mr. Reeves was addressed, the superintendent said. The district is implementing new anti-bullying protocols effective immediately. A bit late for our son, Marcus's father pointed out, his tone frosty. Yes, the superintendent acknowledged. And that's why we're here. We want to make this right. The making it right involved several components, covering all of Marcus's medical expenses from the SUPERGLUE incident, establishing a clear record that Marcus had acted in self-defense in the subsequent confrontation, and most surprisingly, asking if Marcus would be willing to help develop a student-led anti-bullying initiative at Westlake. You've shown remarkable restraint and maturity throughout this ordeal, the superintendent told him. Those are exactly the qualities we need in student leaders. Marcus looked at his parents, who nodded their encouragement. I'll help, he said, but it has to be real change, not just for show. In the weeks that followed, Westlake underwent a transformation. The anti-bullying initiative wasn't just a poster campaign, it involved actual policy changes, teacher training on intervention strategies, and a peer support system for students experiencing harassment. Marcus found himself at the center of it, working alongside teachers and counselors to develop programs that would have real impact. He even started a self-defense club, with Ray from the local gym coming in as a volunteer instructor. One afternoon after school, as he was locking up the gym where the self-defense club had just finished its session, he was approached by a familiar face, Caleb Fisher, who had returned to school the previous week. Hey, Caleb said awkwardly, hanging back a few feet as if unsure of his welcome. Hey, Marcus replied, cautious but not hostile. I wanted to apologize for everything, but especially the SUPERGLUE thing. I should have stopped Tyler, or at least not recorded it like it was funny. It wasn't. The apology seemed genuine, if uncomfortable. Why are you telling me this now? Caleb shrugged, looking at the ground. Because I've been thinking about it a lot, about why I went along with everything Tyler did, and I didn't like the answers. He finally met Marcus's eyes. I was a coward, basically. Easier to be on his side than risk being his target. Marcus nodded slowly. I understand that better than you might think. Anyway, Caleb continued, I signed up for your self-defense club, if that's okay. I figure maybe it's not just about the fighting techniques, you know? Maybe it's also about having the confidence to make better choices. That's exactly what it's about, Marcus said, offering his hand. See you Thursday. As Caleb walked away, Marcus reflected on how much had changed in just a few months. The scars on his scalp were healing. His hair was growing back. But some changes were permanent. He carried himself differently now, no longer trying to disappear. He spoke up in class, joined clubs, made friends. The martial arts skills that had once been his secret were now something he shared openly, teaching others not just techniques, but the philosophy behind them, respect, discipline, and the understanding that true strength isn't about dominance over others. Sometimes standing up for yourself changes everything, not because violence solves problems, but because finding the courage to say enough can transform not just how others see you, but how you see yourself.